Okay, we've been going through a series of steps you can use to get clear about your remodel or new build so that you can gain confidence in your decisions and start making your home how you want it. And these three steps together make up a design framework. And so why do you need a design framework? What makes it valuable? So the first and biggest thing is that you start going from kind of indecision to actually making decisions, so inaction to action. Secondly, it's going to help you get clear about what you want so that you get accurate bids if you're hiring it out, or a clear plan for yourself if you're doing the labor. Third, it's going to save you money and time with the build, and then you're going to get the result that's not only right for you, but that makes the house more valuable if you sell it. And so the first step we went over was called see the space, which was about just taking the time to really look at the space and start figuring out what you really want to change and the things that you can work with. So now you have a clear picture of the space as it is, and it's time to start imagining kind of what it could be, or kind of, we'll say, finding the fixes for those problems that you found. So I can't tell you exactly how to find the best way to fix something in your home, what the best layout is for the kitchen, or how your bathroom should look, or the floors you should use. And honestly, nobody can. Interior designer can't, an architect can't. And you can do your own research. You can research kitchen layout triangles or best bathroom floor materials. But in the end, it's going to come down to how you use those spaces and what your personal tastes are. But I can tell you some steps that I think can start kind of helping you make design decisions so that you incrementally start moving forward. And the first step is going to be just make one big choice, okay? There are so many choices to be made, it can feel really overwhelming. But there's a quote that I love and I cite all the time. I'll probably cite it in another video. And it comes from the author E.L. Doctorow. And he's talking about writing novels, but I think it applies to pretty much everything. He says, it's like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. So just make one choice, and that's going to get you far enough kind of down the road where you can make another choice. So notice I'm not saying decision at this point, right? So hopefully this choice graduates to kind of decision level, but for now it's just a choice that can kind of start informing other choices. And I would recommend starting with a big one. So something that's really impactful, like walls, floors, cabinetry, not something like a fixture or a sink or a paint color. Those things can get pretty easily changed. Start with a big one. So in the last video, we used the example of our kitchen remodel. And when we were observing the space, we decided the cedar ceilings were worth keeping. So that meant we were going to look for a wood for our cabinets that would pair well with the ceiling. And we looked at a bunch of different woods and kind of looked mostly at cherry, walnut, and oak, and kind of felt that cherry was our best bet. So we used that as our first choice, okay? Now try making that choice more into a decision by having a rationale for it. So I said a minute ago, design comes down to how you use the space and your kind of personal tastes. But when I say personal taste, I do not mean just something that you like. You should have a rationale for why you like it. So for example, let's say you're choosing a paint color. Your rationale should not be, I want to paint it yellow because it's my favorite color. Your rationale could be, I want to paint it yellow to contrast with these polished concrete floors and make the space feel kind of warmer and brighter than it currently is. So with our choice for using this cherry for the cabinets, it was cherry pairs well with the brown and red tone of the ceiling and should make the space feel more like a beach cabin, which is what we're going for. So now do that for all of your other kind of high impact decisions, the floors, the walls, the countertops, whatever they are. And then you start going to building a whole set of choices with a solid rationale for each of those choices. Now, when you're doing that, I think you should also be thinking about this next step, which is striving for simplicity. Simpler is almost always better. Once you start making choices, you kind of may be tempted to, add another color or add another texture, another pattern. And it's not that you can't, use color and pattern to reflect your style. I mean, you don't want it to be generic. But I think the spaces that feel the most intentional use fewer materials, but use those materials really well. So back to our cherry cabinets. Those became the walls in the kitchen, walls in the other areas of the house, the ceiling in the bathroom, and much of the other kind of storage and furniture that we made. And that creates cohesion from room to room. All right, and so this last thing isn't really kind of a last step because you're going to be doing it throughout as you kind of look at your choices and you're doing research, and that's collect inspiration. But I know how that can go. So 1 minute, I would be searching for cozy cabins, and then somehow I'm looking at Italian marble tubs, and then I would find myself on some sketchy site looking for, cheap Italian villas. And what that does is just paralyzes you with too many options. You just keep searching and saving, and you're actually not getting anywhere. So I would recommend trying to collect inspiration with purpose. So instead of searching, cool modern kitchen, narrow your search around, the materials you've chosen. So search cherry kitchen cabinets, or you could do it around kind of a palette that you're leaning towards. So dark, cozy cabins. Or maybe it's kind of a style or era that you find yourself continually gravitating to. So for us, it was 70s wood kitchen. You might find a bunch of stuff that's inspiring, but try to just highlight maybe 5 to 10 images and put those in a document. You can put that in the template that we have. And the goal is isn't to create kind of the biggest mood board you can, is to create a focused one that points you towards action. All right, to recap, we've gone through the first 2 steps in this design framework. We've seen the space. You really looked at what the issues were and what you wanted to keep. Now you've found some potential solutions or fixes to those problems. And in the last step, prove the plan. You'll start validating those choices by getting samples and looking at the costs and making some drawings of the layout. And so I hope that helps. Grab the design framework template from the site. And if you need some personalized help with your project, you can learn about our design consultations on the site as well.